So we're waiting just on our guest join on here is Jack Hill. Jack's a guy, local fella from Tyrone here. He's living in London at the minute, and he has a high horsepower 6N3 Polo GTI. So see if we can get him on. Chris Moran, no shed updates yet. The weather kind of beat us coming up to Christmas, so most of the groundwork got done. We have a wee bit more to do before we can do anything else, so that kind of killed us. And it's awful going out and looking at it and knowing that you're so close to having it started to be done, but unfortunately we're not getting there. There's David Jack Hill, there he is. So we'll just add Jack in now. 1 second.
How you doing, Connor?
How's you, mate?
Not too bad, mate. Same shit, different day, you know how it is.
Always. I see there's a few of your, should we say, local friends slobbering there. See Chris Dara saying you got beat by a Subaru before we even start.
Here's the start of it now. All the rest of it is just rolling up and through the chat, so
Yeah,
it'll be a good one.
I've been expecting this all day.
Yeah, highly anticipated.
Of course. So yeah, we'll kick off with you then here. Obviously, I've introduced you already, Jack. You have a 9n3 Polo. What year is that for a Polo? For anyone who doesn't know.
So the Polo itself, it's a 2007. Yeah, so 2007 9n3.
And how long have you owned it?
It's just coming up on the 6-year point now since I actually got the thing from my brother, so it's been quite good. Like,
That's actually a lot longer than I thought you had it. I didn't think it was as long as that.
yeah. So the first few years I got it, I kind of drove it into the ground, had no respect for it. And then yourself, there's certain things that kind of rekindle joy for it and passion, and then things get highly escalated, as you know.
Yeah. Well, being a Polo GTI, I suppose it's one of those cars that you do want to use to its full potential, and if you thrashed it and driven it into the ground, you definitely did.
Well, like I say, whenever I got it, obviously I had absolutely no respect for it. Like Jamie actually thought whenever I actually purchased the car off him, back when he had it on the BBS CHs, that the thing would be scrapped and end up in a scrapyard. But like even to this day, even whenever I do have it, the thing, even with the amount of money that's been put into it and how well the thing has been turned out, I'm not afraid to stick the foot in it and hammer the thing around the place. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why you build it. I'm a bit like that myself. No matter what I do to a car, I'm always going to use it. So you got it, you said they're off Jamie, who's your brother. When you got it, what sort of spec was it in, or what was done to it?
So whenever I got it off Jamie, he obviously sold it. He took the CHs off it. Obviously being a young student and stuff and not being able to really afford much things. I think it was my 18th birthday or 17th birthday, one of the two, where I came out and he was basically screwing the plates that I had from an EG Civic originally onto it and said that the registration has been changed and it was now mine. But it was sort of a gift whenever I started driving to myself, to which then I obviously paid back a lot of the money that was loaned to me from then. But Jamie, whenever he had it, like he had the CHs, someone sold the CHs and took it down to Revo down south and got a stage 1 map on it. And I think the figures that were closely pushing out maybe 200 brake horsepower with something along the lines of the same foot-pounds of torque. But yeah, I got it like that. So
they're a fun wee car because they're so light as well. I remember I was working in Oma one day. I was heading back home down the Ballagully line, and I actually met Jamie in it. And it was him and another Subaru were going at it, coming up the hill off the roundabout. And I was in the work van, just looking and shaking my head. And I messaged him afterwards saying, I seen what you're up to. So yeah, I've seen it firsthand. And then I remember you guys drag racing it at St. Angelo's at the airstrip.
yeah, that was another fantastic day. I say there was quite a few situations like that with Jamie racing people, and I think within the first 2 weeks of me actually getting the car, I worked down near Coopstown in a spray painter shop, and I raced some guy in a 355i BM, and what I got, there was a post later on put up that day who drives the red Polo back and forth towards Cookstown. So Jimmy perked up to the guy in RMS and said, yeah, that was my younger brother. Why? I don't know how the rest of the conversation went, but basically I received a message off my brother saying, doing 120 mile an hour down the Cookstown line doesn't go unnoticed. Reel it in, you dick.
Yeah. And you said you before that you had a Civic, but I think was your car before that a 1.4 Mark IV Golf?
It was, yeah. So I had the Civic. I bought the Civic off a guy in Belfast. It wasn't anything special. Well, to me, it was. It was a 1.3 single overhead. It wasn't even a single overhead cam. Obviously, I worked my ass off to go insured, and the insurance company quoted me $6,500 insured as a new driver. So I had no really other option to sell it and to buy something more manageable. I then went to Scotland and got a sky blue Mark IV 1.4. That thing there also got absolutely hounded. Me being young and stupid, there was holes cut in back boxes and there was real stupid crap done to it. So
they're one of the slowest cars you could ever imagine, aren't they?
You have no idea. You put your foot down and you're shoving it forward trying to get it to go somewhere.
Yeah, no, they're ridiculous. So I'm just picturing you coming out of that into a 200 horsepower Polo GTI then.
Serious difference. There was a massive difference. I'm quite surprised that I still have my license, but that's another one to talk about a different day.
So what kicked you off then on the big revamp? So obviously you had it for a few years, you really were turning into it, but nothing much was happening visually with it, and then all of a sudden the car just exploded, you just went to town on it. What caused that?
So the whole thing kicked off whenever I was in Kenya with work. I had done myself a stupid injury and feeling sorry for myself, lying up on a set of crutches and basically a support boot in my leg. The more and more I looked into it, the more and more I wanted to do something, because it was starting to get to the stage where I wanted to sell it and buy something a bit faster or something that was a wee bit nicer, something along the lines of an R32 Mark V. And the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I kind of strongly decided against it. And how manageable the numbers actually were on the 1820 valves that everybody does get. It started off with a AirTech twin pass intercooler. I put that in it, ran it for a year. I had a few electrical gremlins and stuff. And then decided that basically, fuck it, go balls to the wall. And it was just one of them shy instincts which I never thought would ever happen. And it's got blown out of proportion so quick, because you were chatting to Zach in the last episode, and he was basically said it's a numbers game, where since day one, even playing Fast and Furious and stuff as a child, or Need for Speed and stuff on the PlayStation, I was always on about numbers rather than making things look good and chasing power figures. So that kind of initially gave me a swift kick up the ass to go in and start doing things to it, and to try and make it different compared to what anybody else had really seen. But in those terms, it was quite hard, because a lot of the guys that buy the 9n3 Polos, they do the same thing day in, day out, the same sort of body modifications, the same sort of things in the engine, all that kind of crack, and I just wanted to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when, they're a popular car, and when they are popular and everyone's kind of doing the same thing, it is hard to do something a bit different. And then once you do it, some people look at it and go, why do you do that, or why this, or why that? It's
exactly
supporting modifications outside of that realm of what people are doing.
Yeah.
You have the car there with you, don't you?
I do, yes. It's sitting in front of me here in my work office.
Excellent. Do you want to flip your camera and give us a walk around a bit and talk us through body mods on it then?
No problem. If I start to break up, just shout at me and tell me to stand still, because it can be dodgy at times. So, obviously, this is in my work office. I'm joining you from a sunny, shiny, snowy, dark, cold London. So, as it stands, this is the way we have it sitting. So, obviously, we talked about it's a 9n3 GTI Polo. It's flash red. Obviously, go take a look at the back of it. We've got the Cup Edition rear bumper, which was a track variant that Volkswagen brought out whenever they first released the thing. Vortex rear skirts, which Volkswagen no longer make anymore. The OZ Ultra Legras, which are my new alloys that I've been keeping under wraps.
Very nice. Yeah, I've been
Um,
wondering when they were going to appear.
I'm waiting for a few wee bits from Poland, and then that's a look at the front of the car from the Cup Edition bumper. But
So you mentioned there the Cup kit that was on the Polo race cars from Volkswagen themselves.
yeah, so they released a edition that was only in Europe. It was a left-hand drive variant, and they were solely really track based. You could have purchased them as well from a garage, like a normal Volkswagen dealership, but they had that one, and then plus it was like a Polo S2000, which was their rally spec one, which was like a higher, wider kit. But there was so many different variants of the 9n3 Polo they brought out. It was ridiculous, and the kind of modification possibilities of it were endless. But
Hmm.
it's always the same standard look, what everybody goes for, and it really does pay off.
And I've only ever seen that kit on one other car over here. It was Andy Gamble's grey one years ago, if you remember it, the TDI one.
Funny, whenever I first started, getting introduced into cars and stuff, and obviously met John, Connor, and Derek, and obviously Ronan Hickey and all them guys, way before that, Jamie actually introduced me to him, and I think it was the first ever car show I went to, which was in Harmony Hill, which I
Yeah.
had the EG Civic at. Um, and from my memory, I can't remember much about it, but I knew it was actually a very, very different, special little car. So
It's nice. It makes them more aggressive looking for what's known as sort of a granny car or a cutesy kind of car.
exactly. Well, from driving it about day one, and obviously before I had all the modifications done, that a lot of people overlook it and think, from the standard bumpers and things that be on it, which is the exact same as the 9Ns and the 9N3s, a lot of people turn around and they overlook it and don't really realise what it is. But the moment that I kind of put the Cup Edition kit on it, and then obviously the Vortex side skirts, a lot of people kind of jump to and goes, "Oh, that actually looks very different. It's quite nice,"
Hmm.
and it surprises a lot of people as well. But yeah,
And your wheels then you talked about then, can you give us a close up of those?
yeah. So I'll get a better view here. So obviously we've got a OZ Alta Legeras. They're 5x100, 5x100, 17 by 8 ET48.
Plenty of brake
And
space.
well, there's quite a bit there. There's a nice 20 mil spacer in there in the front there to kind of space it out. To obviously line it up nice and neatly to give it a big flat track look with the fiberglass SRS tag wide wings.
Nice.
But the brakes themselves are 332 millimeters with a 4 pot. I think they're off a Cupra FR,
Oh, nice.
which
Yeah. So
being
do you
standard, so it's
notice
a
much
pretty.
brake improvement?
Say again.
Do you notice much brake improvement with that setup then?
It's serious. Before you kind of put your foot in the brakes, and the back end got very, very light and very, very fidgety. But now,
Hmm.
if you stand your foot in the brakes, it'll near enough throw you dead under the steering wheel, which is fantastic, and it's excellent whenever you kind of get yourself caught out in a bad situation. So,
Yeah. There's no point in tuning the car and not be able to slow it down either.
nah, it's pointless. But so
And
far,
one of the other things you mentioned there was the front wings in the car, SRS.
yes,
A lot of those people probably might not know that they're not standard wings on it.
no. So they're fiberglass wing. They're 35 mil extra wider. Um, I've run into a few problems with it, just kind of mounting up with bumpers and stuff, but that's all kind of to be sourced and fixed in the future. But yeah, they're a lot lighter, slightly. They wouldn't rot anyway, put it like that there. So they're good finish on them, and I like them. I love them.
No, they always look good, and they're nice subtle with they're not. Sometimes you get wider arches there, and they'll kind of widen them, but somewhere that it's not factory looking, so it
Yeah,
looks obvious. Where those don't look obvious at all unless you know what you're looking for.
yeah. You really don't notice it now. Funny that you actually can't get them anymore due to Brexit. So it's a slight investment, but the value's only ever going to go up.
Aye. See, sorry, somebody's saying there they can hardly hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay there, Jack?
Yeah, I thought I'd struggle in a wee bit, but I can make you out loud and clear, Connor, just about. So,
That's all right. No, I'll talk up a wee bit. That's grand. I don't want to be shouting at people down this. Just that's I see Nalo Kane commenting there saying the cup kits make the car. Rav
it
said
totally
she's
it
got them
totally
in
changes
America.
them. Totally changes them.
Oh, they're cool. Any other body modifications then? You've painted the car, haven't you?
So yes, I actually took it up to a company in Dungan. It was at split my wheelchair out. I took it to a company in Dungannon called Dungannon Auto Body Repair, and Leslie and Mark, like, they helped me out big time. Obviously, one of the problems with me actually building this car was having to maintain, organise, and try to get it built from a different country, which
Yeah.
was a major, major problem, and it's fought against me since day one. But the help that they give me and the quality of the paint on it now, it's near enough perfect or better than what it would come out at factory with very, very, very little imperfections. So
Yeah, the standard of Volkswagen's paint, see, kind of from like the mid 2000s onwards, I always found it to be very, very poor. So if you get it painted at all by anybody aftermarket, it's going to be good.
exactly, it was absolutely tragic. I think there was quite a severe amount of lacquer peel up the driver's side door. But as you look at the passenger, it was basically from the wing mirror the whole way down to the rub strip. And I can clearly remember back in my rash days was actually masking off half the side of the car and painting it with a rattle can of lacquer just to try and save it a little bit.
Yeah,
But
try
at
and
that
stop it
stage, I
getting
didn't
any
really
worse.
care. Exactly, I didn't really care because I knew it was going to get painted at some stage anyway. So it was just enough to postpone any damage or anything that would cause to the actual metalwork.
hmm So
So,
before you put the OZ wheels on, you had rotoforms on before that, hadn't you?
yes, I had a set of Rotiform RSEs in silver, but they were sort of a last minute impulse buy just to get something on the car and get it down and running and looking well until I actually decided what I wanted to do with the proper set alloys.
Yeah.
There was just something with the real off the shelf cast alloy that I didn't really like, and they never really ever, you know, set on me. Um, like I just said, it was a last ditch moment just to get anything to put it on. So I'm really, really happy now I got these OZs, and they're light and they are fantastic. I just love them.
Yeah, like the rotiforms never looked bad on the car. In fact, I always quite liked them, but you never were happy with them, and you were never happy with how they sat. But with the whole style of this car and how it is actually built to drive, the OZs are far, far better.
Exactly. I think was it the RSEs were an ET45. On the fronts, they weren't having an issue. There might have been a slight bit of issue with because there's no camber adjustment really in these things. They were catching slightly on the front arch, but it hasn't done any damage. The main problem was on the rear arch, where it was bottoming out, and the actual lip of the rim was catching up in here on the underside of the arch. And with it being
Uh-huh.
freshly painted, that's the last thing I wanted to do was cause damage and obviously, banjacks the whole thing and start rusting, start over again, having to get a rear quarter painted. So
No, it's good. Good to get it sorted. Is there any other body modifications around the car you've done?
well, there's a new bonnet on it, if that counts. I
Well,
think
yeah, I didn't think you want to mention that part.
well, basically, for anybody that doesn't know, whenever it was getting built by McEwen Motorsport when I was in England, the weather kind of turned for worse one day, and he had it outside with no engine in it and no bumper, nothing. So the wind caught underneath it and threw the bumper or the bonnet up over the window screen, bended the bonnet in both hinges, and then busted the window screen into pure crap.
Nice.
Um, Obviously, I've talked about the Vortex skirts, which Volkswagen don't make anymore, but they were off a Vortex edition Polo that they brought out.
Was there an option for cup kit skirts, or did they not come with a skirt?
The Cup editions did come with a skirt, but it was very, very similar to what the Vortex was.
Uh-huh.
The Vortex are a lot deeper and they're more prominent looking, whereas the Cup editions were more subtle and you wouldn't really notice it in terms of how aggressive the kit and everything looked on it. So I decided to go with the Vortex ones, obviously, instead.
Yeah, no,
But
that is a right
apart
choice
from
then.
that, there's very, very little externally in bodywork that's been done. Everything else has been kind of engine bay inside. So
Your interior then kind of steps up the same sort of theme as a fast road car. Do you want to show us that?
yeah, absolutely. So was another thing that I said, like obviously I daily the crap out of this, and a lot of people don't believe that I can physically sit comfortably in these.
Well,
But
just on that point, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but you brought it up. What height are you?
so I'm 6'7" and 160 kg, so it's not like I'm a small guy.
No. I sat in your Polo in the passenger seat on one of the driven runs, and I could barely see over the dash. And when you were sitting in the same seat, you look normal sitting in it. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Yeah, so that's another positive plus with all the little design elements that my big brother is useful for, even though he's not really that good at much else. But I'll not go there.
I'm
So
sure he's
on
delighted to
that
hear
fact,
that.
say again.
I'm sure he's delighted to hear that.
Over the moon, they'll say they'll get a smart ass reply here very soon about rolling coal and his big dodgy A7.
I'm watching for it.
But yeah, no, on that matter of fact, obviously there's Kirby Club Sport seats in them. Um, with me being so big and how I am, it was a struggle to fit in them, and I didn't know if the standard brackets that OMP brought out would fit and give me that extra leg room. So Jamie, being Jamie and who he is and what he does, he designed up like a set of seat mounts. Obviously, I gave him the measurements, and he designed the seat mounts to bolt directly on the floor. So we have the signature PBE brand in there, Potato Bread Engineering.
Very nice.
So they're made out of a set of, I think it's 4mm plate. So they're not going to go anywhere, and they're firmly bolted to the floor. And it also gives me a hell of a lot more legroom, being able to mount the seat further back to what it normally was.
And are those fixed, or can you adjust them as you go, or do you need to unbolt them?
I can fully adjust them.
Oh, so they still slide. Very good.
Still slide. So, and then if you want to raise yourself up, I tell the passengers to bring a cushion to sit on, which is handy.
I would say the way you drive, you do where you want to see what's happening.
Exactly. Let's grab onto your Jesus handles and pray for life.
Yep. I see a different sort of shifter tower then as well.
Yeah. So this is another one of the things that kind of fought me. Next to the differential, but we'll get onto that in a different bit. Obviously, I ordered this, I think it was 2 years ago. It was one of the stockpile parts at the start and wasn't really fitted to the last minute, but it's a Cooler Works O2J type shifter. And to be honest, this is probably one of, if not the most favourite mod that I've done to the car, because it changes the drivability, how fast you can get up and down through the gears. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it just changes the character of it so much. Like,
I see Sam commenting saying the shifter's scary. He says the gate's ridiculously close.
Yeah.
I see there's a few people have had the CAE towers have used as well, and it's mental how close the gears are together.
It's not so. I think it is from the second to third. You physically can't feel the thing centering. It literally feels like straight up from second to third, and there's no movement out of the shifter whatsoever.
And does it take long to get used to driving that, or it's become second nature pretty quick?
It took me maybe about a day or two to try and figure out where the actual gears were. A hell of a lot of grinding, but I don't like to admit that. But it has come second nature pretty quick with minor adjustments and stuff and trying to get the thing, perfect from inside the car. But other than that, it has been absolutely fantastic. I say
you've tidied up around it there as well with a trim, like a custom trim on it, is it?
Oh yeah, so full regards to Connor Alden for that one. That was an idea that wasn't his BM, obviously, with his Cooler Works. We were down at Connor's house one day and I asked him, would you mind if I did something similar to that? And he says, yeah, work away. So I pulled it out, obviously, cut out round the profile of the shifter, and then stuck it in from underneath and wrapped it in Alcantara. At the same time, also, I had lost my 12-volt power adapter because it used to be up in here in a cigarette ashtray. So I basically pulled out the old panel here, made up a new panel, redrilled the 12-volt, and stuck it in through there.
Very nice, yeah. Nice, you still have full functionality as well for driving the car.
Exactly, you have your ability to charge the phone or put on FM transmitter or whatever you want to do. So it's practical. Well, depends how you want to interpret that. So
as practical as can be.
Yeah.
I see Big Brother there commenting who cut around it.
Who cut around it? Yes, that would have been Big Brother because I was in the process of, I think, painting a strut bar in the front of the engine bay. So he did that bit. So he did the hard part.
And then obviously a wheel there as well finishing up the race spec interior?
Yeah, so it's a OMP wheel. Don't ask me exactly which one it was. It was one of the stockpile of parts that we had in the garage. Before that, it was a Momo Team 280 mil, which was tiny. It was like driving a go-kart.
I've had teams as well before. They're so small.
They're ridiculous. And I think with me putting the foot down and obviously dealing with the torque steer and stuff, it was just starting to become dangerous. So I decided that I would just pull it out and stick an OMP one in, which we had obviously lying about, and fill the yellow writing to match with the red and black, exterior.
Yes.
So
That, and obviously for the height of you sitting further back, you want something with a bit of concave to it to throw the wheel back towards you.
exactly, it just makes everything a lot easier. It's all about drivability at the end of the day. So that's basically it up front. I'll go into the back here as well. I think was it the rear bench in these is it upwards of like 30 kg, so they're ridiculously heavy.
Why is
So
that?
I honestly don't know why they're so heavy or what. Don't really ask me, but they're ridiculous weight. And ever since that day at the drag stepping in Enniskillen with obviously Nigel and racing with Ronan and stuff, I have never ever put it back in. So ripped everything out and made a false floor. Mounted the fire extinguisher whenever you get caught short, which hopefully never happens. And carpeted the whole thing. Exactly, it's good to have it rather than need it. And basically left the whole thing ready for a half cage to go in it. So
Very nice. And what did you make the false floor out of? Like an MDF and trim it like OEM looking carpet, is it?
So Christopher Dara was one of the people that actually helped me with this. Obviously his family owns a furniture shop. And I went up to him one day because he runs his Beardy Benz business.
Yeah.
I took it up to him one day and turned around and said that could you help me out here? So we measured it out, stuck the profiler in a wood CNC machine, and he cut it out. But the original plan was that I had GTI embedded in the rear boot floor, which I ended up not going for because I thought it looked very, very tacky and unclean. So I simply just flipped the board over and carpeted the chipboard with like cheap eBay carpeting, which does the exact same job, but you can still see the GTI on Chris's old board. And then obviously if you look into the rear spare wheel well, we've got the battery mounted in the boot and the battery relocated out of the front. So
yeah, so you still have some sort of storage in the back as well then?
yeah, it's handy for sticking a detailing bag or a toolkit if you're going anywhere, and stops it from rattling about and around where the back seats used to be.
Very nice.
So it's practical. You can get your shopping in there at least.
That's it. So do you want to get to the fun part then?
Oh, this is the big one. Have you got another hour here? Have you?
Oh, it's okay. I know plenty about it. It hasn't been smooth sailing for you anyway with it?
No, not really. This is where the problems have kind of arisen, and obviously with being a Polo and the engine base and being so small, it has run into a lot of problems with trying to fit things and fight with things. And I'll just check, make sure I turn this interior light off. Don't want a flat battery.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't really know Polos, these engines along with the Fabia VRS with the PD 130s, these engines were never designed to go in here. The bays are tiny. Even from factory, it looks like a swap that someone's done in their garage because like they mount the ECU randomly on the firewall and nothing looks OEM in them.
Nothing. It's pretty dark. It's hard to see there with everything in black, but like exactly what you said. They never really intended to fit them in. They came out and the 1.8 turbos came out in the Mark IV GTIs and the Fabia VRSs and FR Leons and stuff. But that's if you really want to look into, there's different engine codes and different compatibilities, different engines and stuff. But mine's is just a simple BGX bottom. So yeah, mounting the ECU into the back.
150 horsepower, would it be?
Say again?
It started off would have been 150 horsepower. Would that be right?
I would have come out of the factory, Connor, at about 140, 150 varying, around that. So the end goal has been nearly. Sorry?
And what are you sitting at the minute then?
Currently, I'm sitting at 230, and it's actually going for tuning next weekend in Manchester. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what we can kick out of that and whether or not I have to stick water meth on it. So,
Nice. More money to spend.
oh, don't even go there.
So,
But
so
yeah.
talk us through what you have there. What spec have you got?
So it's as I said, a 1.8 20 valve turbo. We've got the R8 red coil packs up front, leading into basically the main body of the engine. The bottom rods are a Pro Race Engineering forged rod. When they went in, it obviously went in with brand new ECL race bearings, and obviously had every single timing chain, belt, bolt, everything replaced. That's near enough as good as new. So it would give me that longevity of having a reliable, fast road car.
Yep.
On the outside then, we've got a integrated engineering intake manifold. This is one of the transverse ones that I got and originally ran with the AirTech twin pass cooler. But because I couldn't get the numbers out of it, what it was, obviously I bought it in future for being able to flip it from the throttle body being this side to that side and running a single pass, and so on and so on. Mounted on top of that, there is a IE fuel rail with 550cc injectors, 4-bar fuel pressure regulator, and then the turbo itself is a KO3S hybrid. That's basically a KO3S mixed with a KO4. So it's the KO3S housing with a KO4 internal fan, as you could say. So
Yeah. And just on the topic, or you're talking about that, your intake, just so if anybody doesn't realize, you're looking at the car there, the throttle body's exiting over towards the passenger side. So
this
you
side,
can
yeah.
actually unbolt that and flip it around, can't you?
Yeah, so there's the four bolts on the top and then 4 bolts on the bottom, which are a nightmare to get at, but you can actually pull the whole thing off, rotate it, and then bolt it back on again to make your throttle body coming out this side. But then that starts to run into issues with the charge pipe.
No, it's a good setup, and I've seen those, and they're certainly not cheap, but they're a great job for what they do.
Yeah, I think it's like it's what I said at the start. It's just trying to be different. The majority of the guys that run them have all the big power S3s. So your likes of Pro Race Engineering, Simon Crowley, Stacey Fenton. The guys that actually own the company in England here, they obviously have 2 high-spec 18 turbo drift drag cars, and that's the kind of gear they run on theirs. So the compatibility is there. If I want to decide to throw my checkbook at the wall again, decide to go for a bigger turbo, and then look about putting the engine apart again and putting Ford's pistons in it and whatnot. But I say the restricting factor now at the moment is probably going to be the turbo, but everything else is good for up with that.
That's good because, you know, if your restricting factors is something to do with the internals, the chances are you're going to drive it for a while, want to turn the boost up a wee bit, and then it's going to pop.
Exactly.
You know, you've done things the right way around. So obviously trying to get the power down, what supporting mods have you got for it then?
So the majority of people go for the Quaife LSDs that I'm going to slip diffs. Obviously, I had recently came into a little bit of money and got lucky, so I decided to go absolutely nuts again and on a spending spree. I got a Wave Track LSD, well, a Wave Track differential, which they basically work off a loaded plate rather than gears inside the diff itself. But the difference that makes in the drivability as well and distributing the power is crazy. There has been quite a few times where I'm going to say I should be dead, and that thing has saved me. And I mean, there has been a permanent crease on the underside of my boxers because of it.
Very nice. That's quite a sight.
So, like, it's...
That diff was something that wasn't one of the more straightforward things for you, was it?
No, so I think I went through Regal Autosport whenever I actually purchased that. I had waited for weeks upon weeks for this differential to come. Got the differential, left it down to Matthews, obviously because I was going off then back to England to work. Was it 2 days after that? I received a call, was it like 3 days after me landing in England, saying that the differential was wrong. It wouldn't fit in, that I think it was it was 0.1 millimeters bigger than what the differential housing was inside the O2J gearbox. Right. Looked into it, and it turns out they sent me a differential for O2JB rather than an O2JM, which was the different types of gearboxes. which one's 6-speed and one's 5-speed. But the gear or the diff sits into the housing. It was 1 millimeter difference, so I had to pull it back and then rebuy all the ARP bolts for it, all the mounting gear, the bearings, send it back to them. Thankfully, they played ball with me and replaced it and sent me out a new one. But I think I was waiting for nearly 3 months for the differential to come, so I put a massive hole in the whole build just waiting for a diff, and we couldn't go any further without the diff because the engine was ready to be dropped in.
That sold us for it, and at times I got tempting to just go, screw it, I'll put the standard diff back in, but it's a good thing you didn't, because like as you said, the difference it makes to that car is incredible.
It's nuts. Like I offered you, I threw you the keys that day of the driven run, and I don't know whether you were scared or you were genuinely trying to be an adult, but it certainly didn't. You were trying to be an adult, and obviously Nigel kind of screwed that one up. So yeah, as far as I remember, he took off in a BMW M2.
He did, yeah. You threw me the keys, and I says, no, I don't want to be driving up and down here wrecking somebody. I didn't really want to encourage anybody else to do it. And about 3 minutes later, Nigel come past me and Andy Totten's M2 flat out. I was like, all right, fair enough, thanks.
Well, the offer's always there for it, Connor. If you want to take the keys and take it for a drive someday, like, you're more than welcome. So
I'll not refuse the next time, put it like that.
There's the main man himself that actually put all the work into the car, McKeown Motors. Fantastic fella for it. Yep. Pulled me out of many holes. So, but yeah. So that's the main part of it.
That's strut brace as well, isn't stock, is it?
Say again?
Your strut bracer isn't the standard one, is it?
Oh, the strut brace. I think it's a white line strut brace, but I bought that off Sam Hutchinson whenever he obviously had his 9n3. And as per normal, Sam just has a stockpile of parts lying in a garage, so I tend to pick at them like a chicken and lift bits and pieces off them whenever I need them or whenever I fancy them. But it doesn't really serve much use rather than just stiffing up the top struts, which I haven't noticed anyway. But it breaks it up a little bit and gives you something else to look at whenever you do lift the bonnet. So yeah, in other terms as well, there's a catch can there, which is vent atmosphere. So the reason why I did that is because obviously whenever you start putting the bigger turbos and stuff on the 18 turbos, you don't really want the old waste oil and stuff recirculating back into the system because it starts to cause damage in the long run. So I threw that on, being Northern Ireland, because it's colder weather and it's healthier, and you just empty it every other week. So
it's crazy the amount of stuff that you actually do empty out of those when you fit one. People think they're a bit of a gimmick, but then when you do fit one, the guns and stuff that comes out of them is crazy.
It's nuts. It is nuts. I was going to say it looks like something there, but it says probably better not to say it in the live stream.
Keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it clean. Keep it PG. Trying to think what else is. Oh, we have Vibrotechnics engine mounts in there as well. Down in the base, you can't even see them, but the Vibrotechnics engine mounts are in there.
Do you find much vibration with those?
It's a lot more stiffer anyway. You feel it more. There's less flex in the engine. It keeps everything a lot more solid. And I think it kind of makes you put the power down a bit more easier. Strengthening it up, putting it through the gearbox. So, but
yeah, that's
until I get it properly mapped and tuned, then we can look about that at that stage.
Something else I didn't talk about. What coilovers are you running?
Yes, yeah. About that. So Jamie actually got a set, I think they were AP coilovers whenever he first got the car from Scotland. They are still the coilovers that are in the car 5 years later. I can't really do much with adjusting the ride height because the adjusters are seized. It's slightly higher lifted at the back than what it is the front. But the main plan for that is to go for a set of BC racing coilovers off a Mark V. Basically, when you do that, you can cut the top off the strut around here and fit a camber plate in it, re-drill out the holes, and then it gives you full camber adjustment and alignment, heel, toe, whatever the hell you want to do. So that eradicates that problem. So that is something that's going to be done within the next couple of months or so when the funds start to build up again.
That's a good setup. So it's basically like I don't want to say the way it sounds like, but a poor man's performance setup. You're getting the adjustability of the full camber setup on the top, one band standard set of coilovers for a Mark V.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said before, obviously there's no adjustment in these at all. So as they're a fixed axle, so you can't put any toe, any camber, you can't do nothing. I think the only thing that you can do is toe in the front. But apart from that, that's as much adjustability as there is in them.
Aye, so if you want to build something that's going to handle right, you want to be playing about with that.
Exactly. But that is the idea in the long run, obviously. Do 2 or 3 years of shows, and then whenever it's sort of met its heyday, when everybody's sick of looking at it, I'll sort of take it out of the track and absolutely smash it everywhere and try to break lap records, which are never going to happen, but we'll give it a go.
Well, that's it. It's all been improving too. You might find, we talked in the latest podcast there, I think Ronan was saying to me too, that he felt that tracks would open up sooner than car shows maybe, so you might get more this year than you think.
Well, it's been talked about, obviously with my work colleagues and stuff, because we basically work in a vehicle specified sort of things. But we've talked about going to drag days and stuff at Santa Pod, where there's a lot of guys, or either going to the F1 and Silverstone at the weekend. So there's a lot more over here than what there is back home, unfortunately. Which has given me that bit of freedom a little bit more on the weekends if I'm not really doing the square root of FA. So,
but it's good if you are over there. At least you can take the opportunity and do the things you're not getting to do, or at least having to spend £300 on a boat to go and do it. You can just do it on the weekend.
Exactly. So the only problem is having to drive it home in one piece after you're done. So.
Exactly. You haven't to put her on a boat scrapped.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm trying to. I think that's pretty much it, Connor. I don't really know if I've missed anything out.
What exhaust are you running?
Oh, so from the turbo back, we have a 3-inch. It's a custom 3-inch downpipe. From the turbo, then the whole way back, there is no cats. There is no resonators. There's no baffles even in the back box. Obviously, I got the exhaust off a guy in England already who had done a lot of Nürburgring stuff, and the back pressures coming off the back box were affecting it a lot. So he basically cut an eye on top of the rear exhaust box and pulled all the baffles out of the exhaust, re-welded it up again. So there's not a single thing dampening it the whole way back. So it's Miltech full non-resonated at all. So the noise out of it is not over the top. It's actually very, very manageable. And whenever you stick the foot down, that's when you really hear it. So
yeah, that's one thing I was going to say to you. I'm surprised to hear there's nothing on it at all, because we drove behind you a bit on the driven run, and like you can hear it, but it's not overly loud. It's not unbearable. So obviously the turbo's muffling it somewhat.
Yeah, it's very manageable. I would say it's a lot louder outside when you're driving it than what it is inside. Obviously after I stuck them rear floor panels in, there's a slight drone, maybe up and around 4,500, 5,000 revs, but realistically, whenever you hit that, when you're trying to save fuel and drive sensible like a normal person, you don't really, it doesn't really affect you much. But apart from that, I think, I love the little thing. Like, a lot of people turn and say to me, why put this much money into a Polo and things? And it's fun. It surprises people. I sound like a real 18 turbo lover here, but they're quick, and frig, they are quick.
I give them a lot of abuse myself. Like I'm firmly a VR6 guy, but we've talked about it before. Tensor with them, it's just you can spend the money to do it. They're such a capable engine.
Oh, it's the ridiculous. I think, with pretty much normal stuff on them, you can get them effectively up to around 300 brake horsepower. But if you really, really, really want to kick the sheets off, like you can easily reach, I would say, upwards of 800 brake horsepower with bored out 2-litre stroker builds with a TFSI crank and things. But they're so basic, they're bulletproof, they're easily worked on, and you get what you put out of it.
Excellent. No, you're right. And you were telling me as well, then you looked into that class that Zach Martin races in, and one of their leading ones is a 20-valve turbo, isn't it?
Yeah, I was looking at that. It's a 20-valve turbo front-wheel drive Golf, I think it was. 700 horsepower, and the thing just goes. It's like it kind of fascinates me at how much torque and power that they can put through gearboxes, which has kind of been the thing that stumped me from day one, because realistically you can only put, say, 320 foot-pounds of torque through a standard 18 turbo gearbox. And after that, then they're replaceable items, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to give you bother. Can you buy any
Exactly.
like bracings for the gearbox? I know the VR6s are like internal bolt-on braces you can buy. Is that a thing for them?
Not particularly. No, I say if you did search hard enough, which I haven't really done about it, you could probably find something.
Hmm.
But like I said, with that S2000 rally build, they obviously had a dog box, which are now quite rare. But you can get them and throw them in it, or you can go for an S38L gearbox, which is the SG automatic one. But then a lot of them starts to give baller with the mechatronics and things, the units. So like it has been one of the points looked at where me and Jimmy have kind of sat down and discussed about it. Where I wanted to stick a DQ250 gearbox out of a Mark V GTA. And there's a company that makes the whole Haldex and mechatronics unit that basically bolts on, but the only problem then is that you have to start running a aftermarket ECU.
Control it.
Exactly, to control it. And then if I was doing that, then I might as well just replace turbo and try to blow the thing.
Yeah, go mad on it again.
Exactly, but it's one of them things. It's like I'm trying to get as much out of it now as possible and then see where we stand. But like if I make good power now next weekend, leading into the start of February, I say I'll be quite satisfied with it for another while until I decide to basically throw the deposit for a house at it again.
That's the best way. Though, like if you go straight to the top, the problem is then once you get used to that, where do you go from there? You know, it's better to build it in stages and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. I say that's one thing that I regret doing about it. If I was going back to do it again, I kind of did everything at once. Um, like going back and doing it, I would rather do it bit by bit by bit by bit rather than throwing it in, because it would have cost a hell of a lot less than what it did. But the thing's just, I'm really, really glad too at the same time that I did it, because the thing's just phenomenal. Like Matthew McEwen said there as well, you have to drive it. Like you don't understand what the car is like until you actually sit in it. Just throw it into corners, put out of corners, downshift it, stick your foot in the floor, and it just goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people bandy about figures and horsepower and times and things, and like there's a lot to be said for a car that's well set up that will drive properly.
Yeah, I think, was it the last time that I was down at the drag racing, obviously with Nigel and stuff and in a skilling. I think I just missed out in the 14s at a quarter mile, and for something that's only running 200 brake horsepower and just about to break the 14 mark is very, very, very well done.
Yeah, and that's what it's set up to do.
Exactly. And like it's there. I have the differential. If I want to take it on a track day, I can take it on a track day, or I can easily take it down to the guy that tuned it, and he can turn the torque down, and I can throw it onto a drag day without busting gearboxes and stuff. And there's so many factors that I've left myself open for that I can do whatever the hell I want, which is just great. And it's an all round great daily driver as well, which is quite funny.
Yeah, and it's quite rare when you've done all that.
There's not many people that do it, but yeah.
And just before you go, what clutch and flywheel you run that? I assume it's a VR6 clutch, is it?
Yeah, so it's a VR6 clutch and a G60 Leighton billet flywheel. Obviously, they were in the car whenever, obviously I forgot to list that, Jamie put that in the car whenever he first got it. I don't really notice the difference because I never really drove it on standard, but I think they can just hold that little bit extra power and stuff on it whenever you start to go up whenever you start to go up the power figures and start to climb the numbers and the power that you want to chase. And I think it's basically one of like the stage 2, I think, upgrades that you have to do is a VR6 clutch and a G60 flywheel, along with an exhaust system.
I think the G60 flywheel does away with the dual mass, and then the VR6 is better for more torque. Obviously, they were a torque engine standard. They have higher clamping forces, what I believe, but it's a good upgrade for not a whole lot of money considering their OEM parts.
It is, yeah. Saying that, it's really, really good. There's quite a lot of OEM parts that you can kind of chop and change in them. and throw in them, like I was saying, like that DQ250 or even a 02 JM 6-speed box. You know, I think all you have to do is really edit and kind of change gearbox mounts. But apart from that, it's a plug and play module.
Yeah,
Tom
that's the beauty
Martin
of
did it
Volkswagen
and
stuff.
all that. Say again?
It's the beauty of the Volkswagen stuff. You can chop and change. It's a bit like Lego.
It's fantastic. It is fantastic. Everything's interchangeable. It's where they cut costs, everybody else prevails.
Exactly. That's a very good way of putting it, actually, yeah.
But
Well, Jamie, thanks very much. Or no, I'm calling you Jamie. That's your brother. Looks like.
no,
Jack, thanks very much
I'm a
for
lot
coming
better
on.
looking, Connor. I'll have you know.
A lot better looking, and I've talked to you for 45, 50 minutes and I go and insult you there like that.
Yeah,
So,
that's spot on, mate.
thank you very much. As I said, it's a great wee car, that, and it's good to get a look around it. I enjoyed seeing it the last time you were home there, just before Christmas, so hopefully we'll get seeing it again soon.
Yeah, and yourself, Connor. Obviously, stay safe and all that kind of crack. Just before you go, I want to take time to say, with all you guys and the things that you do with the Reload podcast, that you take it out of your daily time and provide such great content for everybody to listen to. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I say there's a lot of other people that thoroughly enjoy it as well. And we really are, thankful for time and the quality of stuff that you put out for everybody. So thank you.
No, appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's good to get a bit of feedback. Thank you.
No problem, Connor.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
Right, all the best. Look after yourself, Paul.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so there we go. Jack Hill, not Jamie Hill, as I like to call him at the end there. I've seen that Polo a few times now in person, and it's so cool. I've driven behind it and seen how it performs. So once it gets mapped properly, that thing's going to be an animal. Just on what Jack said there, we do put out the podcast for everybody. It's something we also do for ourselves, because as things are going at the minute with lockdowns and people struggling and not getting out to car shows, it gives us the opportunity to do car related things and put it out there for people to listen to. So the interaction we get with you guys is fantastic. People message in all the time. They message the page, they message personally, they ask questions on the podcast. It is great fun. So the more people do that, the more we can put out for you. So if you want, give us a shout anytime. There's no issues with that. Just on that note, as I said at the start of this, our latest episodes, episode 28 was Zach Martin. He's a front wheel drive drag racer. He runs a Mark III Golf over 1,000, sort of 1,100 horsepower. Such an amazing story and good guy to be talking to. So check it out. And I'm going to leave it there, guys. So there'll be another one of these next week. Lee or Nigel will be doing it, and we'll talk to you then. See you later. Bye.